Welcome to Macon Memories. This is Lynda Wright, and I'm at Randolph-Macon College on Tuesday, May 24th, 2011. I'm here today with Professor Ed Woodward and Professor Cathy Staples. Professor Woodward, can you tell us when and how you came to teach at Randolph-Macon College?
Sure. I came here in 1983 and had recently retired from the Army in 1981. And I was actually in Germany with my wife visiting her mother, and I got a letter from which Ed Smith wrote at Randolph-Macon College. It was forwarded through VCU, where I was in the accounting program, and I received it in Germany. I got a German typewriter with and answered back as best I could. I came to the college, I think it was August the 18th, and they needed someone to teach 8 courses. And so I signed the form. I think they were more than happy to get someone to teach.
Well, I arrived in 1995. I came in an unusual way. My mother-in-law actually told me about the position we were looking. I was at VCU, and we were contemplating leaving VCU and moving away, and she lives in Ashland, so she was not excited to hear that we might be leaving town with her grandchildren. So she heard from Bob Hopkins, who was the registrar at that point, that they were looking for an accounting person. And so I sent my application in, talked with George Lowry several times on the phone, and then came in to talk with him and scheduled regular formal interview session, coming in and talking to everybody in the department. And so I ended up enjoying it quite a bit, walking around with George, having him show me the campus and everything. So it was unusual. I hadn't realized that there was a position open until she had told me that.
Mm-hmm. Good. How about some early role models or mentors at the college or other places?
Basically, Jim Buckle was here. He was head of the internship program. And George Oliver I taught in Fox Hall mostly, and my first office was the second floor equipment room with no air conditioner and a single window and one desk, and a lot of old equipment around me, but somehow we made it. Anyway, George Oliver and myself used to open Fox Hall, since we had keys to the door, and George sometimes stayed overnight, and he was the chairman of the history department. But he sort of told me what to do and how to do it, and Jim Buckle had the office next to my room, and so he was my mentor in the early days.
When George spent the night, where did he stay? You mean spent the night in town?
In town. His wife, I think, at that time was teaching in Mary Washington,
Mm-hmm.
and so rather than go back and forth to Fredericksburg, sometime he stayed overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And he was responsible. One of the big things that most people are not aware of, he was responsible for getting air conditioning in Fox Hall. He was the primary force behind it, because in August and September, you almost could not teach in that particular building. And it was so hot that you wanted to take your shirt off.
Yeah.
It was that bad.
Yeah.
So George was the one that got the equipment working in Fox.
I'm sure the faculty and students
Yes.
are grateful
Mm-hmm.
about that. How about you, Cathy? Any early role models or special mentors?
Well, here I'd say again, because George Lowry interviewed me and brought me in and introduced me around. I mean, I think he started out as probably my mentor here, making sure I felt comfortable at Randolph-Macon and comfortable with what I was doing here.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say he was probably the main person. Everybody else in the department was wonderful, but he made sure I felt comfortable and got everything that I needed in order to do what I needed to do. Ed, too. I mean, he helped me get situated, because I came in teaching classes that I had, for much of it, I hadn't taught before at all. So it was interesting.
So it was very different from where you had taught.
It was very different. I taught fewer classes where I was before and taught the same, like 2 classes only. When I came here, I was teaching 7 classes over the course of the semester, or the year, excuse me, over the course of the year, and 5 different preps, which were all brand new preps that I had never taught before. So it was very interesting. The first year, I had started here with a 3-month-old baby and teaching 5 different brand new classes, so I was a tad on the exhausted side by the end of the first year. So
More homework than the students.
yeah, exactly. You had to at least understand what you were going to teach them somewhat, and I did. It just being a brand new course, it made it a little bit more challenging.
What were some of the main issues facing the faculty at that time?
I think the biggest issue, including me, was office space. Like I said, I didn't have a very desirable office when I got here, and a lot of the people who were temporary had to share offices. And that was before we ended up with across the railroad tracks and before Thomas Branch. So it was really a hard thing to find office space at the college. That was about the only thing. Obviously, we're getting more and more female students in, which turned out to be probably good for the college since they were better students. Anyway, those were the 2 major issues, I think.
So the college was growing a bit,
Right.
body-wise, from in your early years. It was growing.
Yes.
Do you remember any number? I mean, just
No.
roughly, it was just, but it was growing. So it was stress on the faculty then, as far as number of courses, I guess, or class size as the college grew, or did they hire faculty too?
Class size was a problem. I remember I was in Fox 206 one particular time, and the other accounting professor was retiring, and so I ended up with, I think, 32 or 33 students in Fox 206. And someone neglected to tell me about the parents coming. So I ended up with 3 or 4 sets of parents, and they were behind me and to my right and to the left. I had to move them out of the way to teach on the blackboard, and it was quite a scene. And I borrowed some chairs from the next classroom because I couldn't have them sit on the floor. And I actually got in some amount of trouble since I took the chairs from a senior professor. He didn't need them, but I should have checked with him first.
Oh, well, you didn't know you were having guests first. Oh, my goodness. Well, talk a little bit about the accounting major. Now, when you came here, there was obviously a business major already.
Business and economics.
And economics were
Right.
already majors, but accounting became a major later, or?
Yes. I'll tell the story about my first faculty meeting. I was invited by Jim Buckle to go to the faculty meeting, and they were introducing a accounting program. And I was not aware of that when I went to the meeting. And the previous head of the economics and business department, Dr. Baskin, was there. They would not let him speak about the program. And one of the individuals, name unspecified, it said, "Over my dead body, we will have an accounting program here. We don't want this to be a VCU business school." So it was severely defeated. And then later on, when Cathy came, George Lowry and Cathy put together the accounting program.
One of the reasons, well, I guess one of the main reasons why I got hired was because they wanted to try and get an accounting program. So my first year, I worked with George to figure out what the program should look like, figure out how to get it approved through curriculum committee, not get the same over my dead body response. We did actually have to do some negotiating and compromising and working with people in our department and people outside of the department to get accounting, because people were worried this is a liberal arts college. we're bringing in accounting, and that's more of a practical practitioner type of major. And it was interesting that whole first year. I mean, we worked on doing that, and I think it was May of my first year, May of '96, it got approved at the faculty meeting, and it went quickly. There was no, arguing or fussing about the fact that it was a practical major, because we had designed it so that it had liberal arts background. It had econ, more econ than most accounting programs will have, and it's you tried to argue the fact that accounting world wanted liberal arts majors, people who could think, reason, do analytical, critical thinking type of skills. And so it was interesting the first year.
I think some other emphasis was the President Payne wanted the program. And I think one of the alumni trustees also wanted the program. And so I think that sort of helped it along with the president also wanted the program.
So your first year, Cathy, you're saying you had 5 new classes you hadn't taught before, a 3-month-old baby when you started, and you were trying to get a new major through the
Yes.
curriculum.
It was a busy first year, and I had a 3-year-old son at the time, so it was a very, very busy year.
But I guess that really introduced you to the committee structure of the faculty
Yes.
here. If
Yes.
you were working with that.
It did, and that was something new for me. Where I was before, didn't participate. It wasn't as committees weren't as big. You didn't do as much to move the college along and work in the college. So when I got here, learned a lot more about the committees and the committee structure, and how much the actual faculty participate in everything that they do.
Would you like to talk a little bit about committee work? Have you all done any other committee work at the college besides working with the committee and curriculum?
I'll sort of let Cathy take that one.
Okay. Well, I've actually worked on several committees. I've been a member of the benefits committee for a while. I've done a little bit with the committee on I can't remember, faculty development. That was a fun committee. That one you actually got to see, or give money away to people, to faculty to be able to travel, and to students. At that point, the SURF program was done through the committee on faculty development. So you got to see the faculty and the student type of research and the activities they were doing. I've chaired the SACS compliance committee, which was interesting because I really got to see the entire college, and how it was run and how it was organized, which was very, very interesting. I've learned a lot by doing that. I've also seen how much, like I said, the faculty has say-wise in how the college is run, with respect especially to curriculum and curricular activities and things like that.
Good. Can you talk a bit about student life in the campus and campus life in general? When you first came and how that might have changed over time?
I think my daughter is a 91 grad, so maybe I'm aware a little bit more than others about what goes on at the college. But the fraternities were a big, big part of Randolph-Macon College back then, and the parties were sometimes notorious. And so that has obviously changed, and there were more and more women coming to Randolph-Macon, and it turns out, from my perspective, they sort of changed the classroom, and it turned out that some of our better students were female rather than male. I think the students were a little bit more involved back then than they are today in other activities. I know I started the Business Economics Society, and we had all kinds of speakers come out and so forth. But other than that, that's about it.
See, I don't know. I haven't seen a huge difference, but again, it hasn't been as long for me,
Yeah.
and I didn't have a connection by having a child here. But I will say, not that the students seem less involved, maybe less involved in departmental type of organizations like Econ Business Society or the Econ Business Club. We don't have that organization anymore. It's now the Society for the Advancement of Management. What I have noticed is that students seem to be involved in about 20 things. You look at their email address, and at the bottom it's like, oh my gosh, how did they have time to do all of these things and come to class and do their homework, and study? And so I have noticed that. Like I said, I think I have noticed a drop off in being willing to do things like work, into the Econ Business Society or the Society for the Advancement for Management, but they are very active in everything else on campus, which is sometimes good, sometimes not.
The other thing is the students get involved in their freshman and sophomore year, and then when they get a pledge to one of the fraternities, then the emphasis moves away from that organization to the fraternities and whatever. And I think probably natural that happens. But like I said, we had 100 and some members involved, and then come junior year, we were down to 15. In senior year, less than that. You got some new ones coming in. But so there's a lot of activities, and she's absolutely right. They get involved more and more as they acclimate to the college.
Well, just on a personal note, you said your daughter graduated in '91. What did she major? Did she major in accounting?
She originally she was aware of Macon College, and she came out in her junior year in high school. Elsa Falls took her and showed her the biology department, and she said she wanted to be a medical doctor. So she took one biology course and decided that was not for her. She didn't want to take any of my classes, so she was an English major and a minor in political science.
Good for her. So I was going to ask you, my next question was, did you teach her? But
No. In fact, several of the professors came up to me right before she was graduating and said, "Is that your daughter I have in my class?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, why didn't you tell me?" And I said, "I didn't want to tell you."
Yeah.
So, and that's, other people have had the same. George Lowry had his kids here in the same way.
Yeah. Right. You wanted.
I didn't want them to know. Right.
Right.
And I had Corey Jackson in my class this past year. I didn't know that was the head of human resources' son.
Oh.
So, Sharon. So,
Yeah.
it's just the way it is, and it's probably the best thing.
That is a good
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Good. Well, what about the faculty and administration relationship? You talked a bit about seeing that closely from being on the SACS committee, but do you see any trends or themes when you look back over the time you've been here and how the faculty and administration work together or not?
I can comment a little bit about that. It was rather rigid structure. I remember the business department kept most of the college supplies, and I went over to get some chalk, and I got a reasonably hard time getting chalk when I first got here. This was not a good system. It's different now since the chair of the department handles most of that. But the supplies for the college came through the business department and over in Peel Hall at that time. And you had to go over there and sign your name to get almost anything, staples, chalk. So it just did not give you, they weren't as friendly as they should have been. I needed chalk for the classroom, what am I going to do, write with my fingers?
Yeah, that's not absorbing it.
Right, it's not a huge expenditure of money. So
I've not seen any horror stores and getting supplies and things like that since I've been here, because I think they changed it about the time that I've gotten here. I have noticed, I've been here with, I guess, the same number of presidents as you since Liddell Payne was quite a while. I came here when Liddell Payne arrived, or when he was here. He left, I think, a year after I got here, and then Rusty Martin was here, and now Bob Lindgren is here. And I've noticed differences in different presidents, but for the most part, it's been interesting working with the administration, different provosts or deans of the college, depending upon which terms
Right,
you're
and that
using.
might have more impact to have on the faculty directly than the president, maybe, or style of management. Well, so how about when you came? Who was the dean, and was there? I was just wondering, administrative styles. Have you noticed anything remarkable about those? Or?
Not really. I think most of our dealings go through the chair of the department, and we're sort of don't have a lot of daily conversations with the dean or the provost. I think President Payne was very well liked, and I think the current president has done a lot for the college, but administrations, I can't think of anything that was really radically different.
No, I mean, I feel more accessible maybe, but then again, I've been here longer and I feel more comfortable than when I first got here. I think Jerome Garris was the provost or dean when I got here. I mean, I was brand new. Again, I was spending all my time getting ready for class, so I didn't, feel as comfortable. But that was all just because of the circumstances being new. But I don't feel any major differences between any of them. And how they operate the college, because we do mostly go through the chair.
And as you were saying earlier, the faculty do have a lot of say, and faculty issues related to the faculty. I think the faculty has a lot of power. So what I'm trying to say is the administration may not affect those issues so much.
Right.
Well, but at a faculty meeting, if the new dean or provost is not aware what's going on at the college with the faculty, he learns about it rather severely.
Very quickly.
In a faculty
quickly.
meeting.
Right.
So.
Can we talk a bit about the tenure process and how that might have changed through the years?
I'm trying to think how it changed. I mean, I got here. I'd already had a few years of experience somewhere else, so my window was narrowed quite a bit. I actually went through the tenure process and moved from assistant to associate after 4 years. It was not a lot of fun because you had to accumulate all sorts of stuff and write a personal statement and just make sure you could sell your case. And obviously I did because I got tenured, which was good. But I can't quite tell if it's changed. I mean, like I said, when I went through it, it seemed like what other people in our department have gone through. It doesn't seem like it's changed. Like I said, mine was a shorter time frame, just because they accepted some of my years from other places. But not, I mean, having looked at the others in our department who've gone through the tenure process, it seems to basically be the same process, longer if you were brand new.
Right. What do you see as the watershed events in the life of the college?
We'll get to the new curriculum maybe later on. But I think the Brock Center sort of changed the focus of the college. And it was made apparent to everyone, faculty and staff, that the Brock Center was for the students and not just the athletic department.
Right.
And so that was extremely important. I know I used it heavily at first. It's maybe tapered off a little bit. But I think the staff and faculty really enjoy that particular facility. And there's a lot of the faculty swim, et cetera, at the college, at the Brock Center. So I think that was a major change in the forward for the college.
Yeah, I think.
And the motels being replaced with the condominiums was a big thing in the college.
I have to say, because I think that started, again, the Brock Center I think had already been approved when I got here and was finished maybe a year or two afterwards. But I think that and like I said, they were the new freshman dorms.
Right.
Seeing the construction, I think that did a lot for the college, and showed people we were concerned about the students, and we wanted the students to have a good environment, not just academic, but outside of academic, since the students live primarily on campus. that gave them the ability to have things to do afterwards, after they got out of class.
I think another addition was Thomas Branch. I'm not sure you were aware, but that was our place for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. We were all over there, and so we had to move out to some buildings which are no longer here, which have been demolished, which is the parking lot.
Behind Blackwell.
Yeah, behind Blackwell. And so we had to move out for the new building, and all of the activities for the students now are in, most of them, they're in Thomas Branch.
Yeah.
And that's where we were originally.
Yeah,
So,
that first floor,
Mhm.
the
Right.
offices are
right. Our department and education,
And philosophy.
philosophy.
was a beautiful space.
Yeah.
It wasn't when we were there, but it was
No.
condemned. Second and third floor were condemned, so you had to, didn't
we had
go up
bats and all kinds of pigeons upstairs.
So,
And
so it was not an active dorm.
there.
No.
No.
no, nothing. It was just we were on the first floor, and it was a shell.
Well, how wonderful they were able to restore that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, a historic building, one of the oldest ones. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And they did a beautiful job
Oh,
with
yes,
restoring, like I said,
yeah.
and giving, again, showing that students are primary here by
And
making
now
that
it's a
first
prime
floor.
dorm, I
Yeah.
think. So yeah, how things can change like that. That's
Right.
great. What else? So the Brock Center really changed, sort of putting the emphasis on it was a community building. I mean, it really brought, because like you say, staff and faculty used that a
Right,
lot.
right, right.
As well, obviously it was for the students. Any else you think of as really a game changer for the college? Or maybe it's more gradual, just
I'd say
this new dorm might be a similar thing.
that looks very
That's-
exciting. I
that's
mean, the
exciting,
fact
yeah.
they're going to have that dorm and then the other one kind of surrounding the football stadium again, community and trying to.
The new baseball stadium and the football stadium and all of that is going to change the character of the college.
And each, the dorm already from the outside looks
Look.
beautiful, and that baseball field is gorgeous.
Yes.
And so everything they're doing, it might take time, but it looks like they're doing it right. The tennis courts, I mean, everything they've done since I've been here has been, first class.
Right.
That's
Sure,
great.
yeah.
Good. Well, when you look back, what are your most satisfying experiences at Randolph-Macon?
Oh, gosh. I think truly is one of the things I'm most satisfied about was the department I'm in. We have never had a huge argument about anything in the department except when Cathy Staples came, the first meeting we had, and she was to take notes, and we had an argument. I think she remembers
I
that.
do remember that. That was the first departmental meeting, and everybody says, "Oh, everybody gets along beautifully." Everybody gets along beautifully, and so the very first faculty meeting, again, youngest person or newest person in the department has to do the notes. And I don't even remember what the argument was. Maybe it was about the accounting major, actually, if I'm thinking correctly.
No, I think it was something that George had stepped on the econ side. He did,
Okay.
He did something, and the three economics professors weren't up to speed, and so they disagreed. But normally, the
Yes.
departmental meetings last 30 minutes or somewhere in that range. We used to have pizza and subs. People would volunteer to do the work, and so it's not a formal affair in most cases. And the other thing is we all socialized together. We all used to golf, including Cathy would sometimes on our trips, and so it made it pretty nice. There was nothing even remotely disagreeable to come to work. We all sit around in each other's offices. We know what's going on. We converse with each other. And so 8 of us, when I got here, there was only 2, Ed Smith and really Barry Fitzner, and now we're 8. And so
Everyone gets along.
gets along.
which is
That's remarkable.
very remarkable.
And,
even that, for like I said, that first
yeah.
faculty meeting where everybody was getting a little tense,
Yeah.
that was it. You walked out and it was over, and everyone in the department, it's amazing.
The other thing is almost all of the people in the department had some job or some activity other than academics before they got into the academic field. And so we have an insurance agent, a construction guy. Cathy was a CPA and an auditor. And so we all sort of have the same feeling about a lot of issues.
Yeah, real world kind
Yeah.
of perspective on life, and
So sometimes we're maybe a little bit different from others at the college, but
Right.
yeah,
Maybe you've been in academia the whole
right,
time.
right. So, but that's the best thing for me was the department. I have never had an issue.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So,
I'd
yeah,
have to agree. And again, as and haven't mentioned it here, but I am the only female in the department, and Ed's retiring. Still couldn't get a female in the department, but it's been a wonderful experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like they do treat me a little different. They try not to say too many, jokes, or use certain phrases or things like that. Sometimes they slip, but it's been a wonderful group of individuals to work with. I mean, it's looking kind of sad to think that we're starting to retire, and people are starting to leave. But it's been interesting and been very good. The department was a nice, refreshing breeze from what I had seen at other places. And the students too. The students have been a challenge some days. Some days you fuss at them constantly, but overall they are willing to do what you throw at them, and that's been nice. And they are willing to work some days really hard. Other days, obviously, they're students, not so much. And I'd say the faculty and our department and the students have been wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, your real world experience, I'm sure, is refreshing for the students as well. I mean, you probably bring something to their learning experience that might be different than they get in some other classes. If for people
I think that's true. I teach a tax course, and I sort of will take whatever position the students want to argue for. I'll take the opposite side, even though I don't agree with it. And so I think most of us are aware of the two sides of an argument, and so we can take either side and then present whatever the student brings up. We can bring up some counter arguments or some supportive arguments. So it sort of helps.
Just be able to relate, real world things that are going on. I think that's been a good experience for the students. Be able to actually tell them this is stuff you'll use when you get out into the real world.
And these have been, the last few years have been, challenging in the economy and, just the state of the world economy in our nation has, I'm sure students are very aware of all of that. I'm sure they brought that to the classroom.
Yeah. I mean, they do get worried, at least in the second semester of their senior year, about finding a job.
Start thinking about it.
Yeah. When mom and dad start saying, when are you moving out?
Well, if you were writing the history of Randolph-Macon College, what would you include from your years here? Chapter headings.
Well, I would say the establishment of the accounting major.
Yeah,
That was a biggie for me.
Right.
I wouldn't be here
I agree.
without it.
Yeah.
And we have grown substantially. I think I started out when my first intermediate class, I think I had 10 people. And this past semester, I had 28. So, and that's been pretty consistent for the last couple of years. I'd say for me, that's the biggie. That would be my big chapter heading.
Right. And even all of my electives, in a lot of cases, I have 25, well over 20 in those electives. So the students must like the electives we have in the accounting program.
They don't
So-
consider them easy, but
No.
they seem to find them useful and enjoyable.
See the value.
But we have the accounting program here is not, in some respects, like some other colleges and universities. At least I require a paper in every one of my classes, and I can remember when I was way back in the dinosaur days, I didn't have a lot of papers that I had to write. But we make them write a paper in each class.
Make it fit to the liberal arts environment.
And it fits in a liberal arts environment. And I think we designed it that way. At least everybody in the department requires that. And I tell my students that people who speak well and write well are going to succeed over those who just strictly know the mechanics.
Right.
And I think finally, after their senior year, I think they fundamentally understand that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. They must see the value in it, obviously, if the classes are full. And I don't know about accounting specifically, but I know business/econ, those majors are very popular. So good. Well, any other memory or special story about Randolph-Macon you'd like to share? Any funny anecdote?
Well, there is one. When they were renovating Fox Hall, the second floor, they were making separate offices. And Dr. Lowry, Dr. Lang, and I shared an office. And they moved a lot of material out of the offices over to the other classroom side. And one afternoon, I was walking over there, and I saw this painting against the wall, and it wasn't covered up or anything. And I said, gosh, here's a painting. It must be important. So I put a cover on it, and, I called over into physical plant. And so I didn't understand, but the President Payne and the head of physical plant came over, and they were all laughing over in the where the painting was. And I couldn't understand why they were laughing. But it turns out that some alumnus of the college had given the painting, and it was kept in Scanlon's office. And when he came to the campus, they would run over and put it up in Peel Hall. But I didn't know this, and I thought it was a valuable painting. But it was, the college didn't consider it.
But they had to keep it.
They had to keep it. So.
Oh, that's funny. Any final words, though?
No, this is a great project, and to get some thoughts we have, and so I've just had a great time at Randolph-Macon College, and like I said, my daughter is now a proud alumnus of the college, and she's a retired mother right now, and she's not working, but I have 2 grandchildren, and the most important thing was the association she had here. She used to live in Arlington, and there were 4 classmates that all now have at least 2 children and happily married. And I can remember when they had wet hair here at the college and so forth. But the attachment is kind of real here with the students. And since it's such a small college, I think the personal relations here at the college are really important. And they sort of stick with them.
That's one of the things I noticed when I was here, when I interviewed with, and George Lowry was showing me around campus. Everywhere we went, someone was saying, "Hello, Professor Lowry. Hello, Professor Lowry." And I'm like, wow. I mean, where I was, you walked down the street and nobody knew who you were. Right. You came here and everybody knew everybody, and that's been, I'd say, the most gratifying thing about coming here is that everyone gets along. In faculty meetings, not just departmental, where we have that one meeting where we got a little angry, but in the big faculty meetings with all the faculty, you could have a huge discussion and tension and people angry during the meeting, but the minute you walk out the room, everybody is back to being friends. They know they're exchanging their views, and that's a good thing here. Is that I think the school has a very good environment for individuals, students, faculty, staff.
That's wonderful. Done the same thing. Well, Professor Woodward and Professor Staples, thank you so much for making memories with us here today.